Here's what I want to ask. Again, I'm asking a lot of questions today. Who are you going to follow in the middle of the storm? You see, look, I think Justin Bieber's great, but following Justin Bieber ain't going to help you in the middle of the storm. You know, I think Rihanna's amazing, great singer. I mean, I think, Ronaldo is a great soccer player. I mean, maybe the best ever. But they're not going to help you in the middle of your own personal crisis or a global crisis. But Christ can. But it's interesting. If we're following the wrong thing before a crisis, then we get into a crisis, we're going to go back to the things that gave us comfort or that made us feel good about our life, and they're not going to be able to help us, and they're not going to be able to sustain us. Okay? Let me say it a different way. You know, it was a lot easier to follow Jesus 4 months ago. Beginning of the year, we're making New Year's resolutions. I mean, we're thinking about how the stock market is just at a high, and then all of a sudden, bam, our whole world came crashing down. See, it's easy to say you're following Jesus when everything's good. But what about when things are less than optimal? And for most of our Christian life, things are going to be less than optimal. I will give you one time when everything's going to be optimal, and that's when we all die and we go to be with Jesus. Then it's going to be optimal. But until that time, there's going to be struggles. There's going to be trials. There's going to be storms. There's going to be crises. But the good news is that if we can just acknowledge who it is who's with us in the storm, everything's going to be okay, and we can be at peace. So here's what I want to say, and I shared it with my wife, and she gave me the go-ahead to say this. Too many American Christians have, in effect, stopped following Jesus and started following something else during this crisis. Now, these American Christians are following Fox News, or they're following CNN, or they're following the Dow Jones, or they're following Netflix, or they're following Amazon Prime, or they're following something else has taken the place. They said they were following Jesus, but when this crisis came up, it showed what was really inside, because crisis reveals character. Crisis doesn't create character, but it certainly reveals what's going on the inside. See, Jesus didn't invite them in the storm, but he brought them into the storm for a purpose. What was Jesus trying to do here? Was he trying to break them down? Was he trying to discourage them? Was he trying to humiliate them? Was he trying to get them to quit and to go home? No, just the opposite. Jesus was trying to develop them. He was trying to strengthen their faith. He was trying to bring them to a new level of trust and mission and purpose. And Jesus knew what was ahead. Now, I don't want to say too much, but next week you're not going to want to miss it, because we're going to talk about what the disciples found when they got to the other side of the sea. But the disciples' first response is, we're not going to make it. How many of us, myself included, I'm just going to be real, I'm always real with you, when different crises or problems come, we right away say, God, make it go away, or we say, God, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this crisis. We've all basically said the same thing. Look what Jesus says in response to them when they say, don't you care, we're going to drown. Look at verse 26. We have it on our PowerPoint. He replied, you of little faith. Not, you know how much I care for you. You know I'm not going to let anything happen to you. What does Jesus do? He gets right at their faith. He gets right at the core of their being. He says, you of little faith, why are you so afraid? Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. See, notice Jesus didn't get up right away and rebuke the winds and the waves. It's not the first thing he did. The first thing he did was look at his disciples and say, I find your lack of faith disturbing. Go ahead and put that meme up for everybody to see. You know I'm a Star Wars fan. Jesus waxes very Darth Vader-esque, very much like the great prophet Darth Vader. I find your lack of faith disturbing. See, in the middle of a crisis, in the middle of a storm, we see clearly who we're following, and more so, we see what we're trusting in. In the middle of the crisis, we see what's inside of us. See, there's times when we think we're walking straight, we think we're walking down the straight and narrow, but we're actually veering off a little bit. And God actually uses crises and trials and problems to tweak us, to tweak our faith, to tweak our attitude, to tweak everything about our walk to make sure that we're going down the straight and narrow. See, we have to dig down deep and see what we're made of and see what's deficient in our lives. And Jesus is trying to get the disciples to see, he's not rubbing it in, he's not putting them on blast. He's saying, look, what's deficient is your faith. I told you we're going to the other side. I'm in the boat with you. You don't have to worry and be afraid. Now, here's the crazy thing. You know what blows my mind? In Mark's account, it says that there were other boats with them. Everybody thinks, well, Jesus was just testing the disciples. You know what? He put dozens of people in harm's way. Do you know that Jesus was really willing to let people go through this storm? And not just a few, but a lot of people. We're all thinking, it's over, game over. This was not a good idea to follow Jesus. Why? Why would Jesus do that? Because he is more concerned in our development than he is in our comfort. He's more concerned about our faith than he is about our convenience. He's more concerned about making sure that we buy into the mission and that we really are radical and join this movement and that we're really a part of this revolution than us just being a casual fan. And so Jesus will lovingly yet firmly, he will pull out everything that would keep us down the road from following him at a later point in time. So Jesus, he can do anything. He can change the storm. He can change our situation. But first of all, he wants to change us. You know, they saw where they were deficient. You know, about a year ago, I was working out. I was just going for it. You guys know I work out. And in the middle of it, I started developing incredible pain in my shoulders. Now, I didn't stop working out, but I pressed through the pain. But I went to a doctor, and then I talked to a good friend who happened to be going through the exact same thing, and I found out I had a vitamin B12 and a D3 deficiency. And so I started overloading. The pain and the trials showed me that I had a deficiency. You're like, Pastor Dave, what does that have to do with me? I think for a lot of us, the pain, the anxiety that we're feeling in this whole COVID crisis shows us that there's a deficiency in our faith. That there's something lacking that God lovingly yet firmly wants to infuse into us if we'll just admit it. And we'll humble ourselves and we'll cry out to God and say, God, please, I do want you to end the storm, but more than that, I want you to end the storm on the inside of me. This storm of doubt, this storm of fear, this storm of panic, take it out of my life. Because I don't want it causing me to walk away and to unfollow you at a later point in time.